it's edited, right? I mean, you drop it when you want. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. I'm here today with Tony. Tony, how you doing?
Great, Casey. Great to see you again.
Good. So tell me a little bit about some of the new technology that you're working on right now. That's really could be a major game changer and world changing stuff.
Well, great. Well, so my thesis in life has seemed to been necessity is the mother of invention, and I tell people that something that my kids might put on my gravestone because something in me has always um, in my adult life said, okay, well, that's a problem we can fix, or we can do that faster or better. So over the years, I started out as a floor trader on the CBOE in the 70s. And as soon as computing power became available to individuals, I mean, even before that, in the 70s, through my job as a clerk for another trader, we bought mainframe time to help calculate theoretical values for our options positions. So I got really familiar with the power. I mean, I took a few classes in college. I learned to program Fortran, but pretty much I was an in the pit trader kind of guy. And then I saw how computing power could help the individual, although it was still mainframe and not portable and all that. Later, people like Blair Hull and Steve Fawcett and Joe Ritchie and Tom Petterfee took computing to a higher level and created electronic market making teams and companies, right? But as an individual floor trader, I ended up hiring somebody to help me with this new DOS system that had come out, and people were like, "Well, you can't do it on a PC. PCs are for use at home. They're personal computers. You can't use them for your business. You don't get it." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll just do all my computing at home then, but I'm going to do it on a computer." So my first program was in '84. And over the last 40 years, I've progressed
Lost a little track of time there.
Yeah, lost only one decade.
Yeah.
I've used the technology in the best way, shape, and form. So to answer your question, what's the latest and greatest today? I have a number of companies. The company that I focus on and spend 100% of my time on as CEO and founder of Liquid Mercury is to deliver the basically fourth generation of all of that work, from doing it for myself, doing it with Research and Trade, which is a company in Sweden that created the org system, through Liquid Point, which I sold to the Bank of New York in '07, and then Matrix, which is my current broker dealer. Liquid Mercury takes the culmination of all that DNA, mostly options trading. We use, I don't like to use, AI as a buzzword, but we do use generative AI to help us with some of our development faster. We can do our integrations with various venues like exchanges and OTC platforms faster. And we do have AI in our algos. So what Liquid Mercury does is it creates infrastructure trading tools for professionals. We're a B2B, but a lot of your listeners, may be on a white label version if they're trading any digital assets at all. And we use the AI in our algos to help learn the user's habits and what's going on in the marketplace and make the algo more refined. I will say one thing. We've had AI for a decade at a very low level, meaning smart routing is AI, being able to choose which of the 17 trending 19 options exchanges had the best price at the moment. Everything's, measured in mics, and some are doing their measurements in nanoseconds now. But I remember, when 30 seconds was a fast options execution round trip. And then, to start to break it down in below the metrics of 1 second. And now we're into microseconds only, or predominantly in some nanosecond measurements. So it's cheaper, faster, better still, but using some artificial intelligence, using some of the latest and greatest UI rendering technology to allow customization on the fly with what your user experience is, and also the flexibility to turn around customized requests by some of these shops in a few days that used to take months.
Yeah. So when you say that you're using AI, can you give a little bit of an example with that? Because you use the example that you're analyzing the price on 17 exchanges. So does AI just mean that you're analyzing a list of data and you tell the AI to make a decision, whatever the best price is, that's what we're going to go with, that kind of thing? Like, what exactly is, like you said, you don't want to use the buzzword, but I think everybody's out there using the buzzword and no one actually knows what it
Right.
means.
Right. So in that example, that's been in play for my other company, Matrix, for 4 or 5 years. And we would argue it's not artificial intelligence, but it is, it's a heuristic decision making that is happening on the fly. So that is in, anybody who has a smart router. The word smart means that you're able to give it a list of parameters and it's going to make those decisions.
And it'll make those decisions quickly. It'll save brain power for human beings. It'll make the right decision because you're telling it what to do. So I guess then maybe the definition of AI really needs to come out there, because I don't know if that's really artificial intelligence, if it's just doing exactly following a set of instructions. It's just a computer program.
Right. Well, so we would agree with you and argue that that's not AI, but it is making decisions based on parameters you put in. The AI that we're speaking about today is learning based on new market input. So rather than just saying, if this is happening, do that, it's saying another layer or two. If these things change, then decide based on a third factor or a fourth factor or a fifth factor. So it's not quite, I want to make money, go do it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
go make money for me today. Okay.
Yeah, just make money for me
I don't
today.
care how you do it. Just
I don't care how you do it.
rob
Don't
a
lose any
bank,
money.
whatever.
I'm gonna be in the lounger, rocker, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll check with you in 6 hours. It's not like that. But for our junior coders who are, or even senior coders who are working with third-party application programming interfaces, APIs, to connect, the program understands, will read the API, understands what the API needs and says, understands what our needs are, and then we'll write the code so that our integration happens in a fraction of the time for a man or a woman to write the code. So we're using it in that respect. In our trading application, in terms of the algos, it will, you'll give it parameters, it'll bounce off those parameters, it'll change, during, and then actually go 1 or 2 levels deeper based on other things you care about. For instance, if anybody's used AI today in the popular apps on your phone, you can see how you can trip it up. Okay, you can see how it's basically a higher level word processor, and you can ask it questions and it'll come back with, well, it's not my area of expertise, or I'm, more than just a search engine, or these typical answers that it gets away with. But for the most part, it is a body of all the words in your language and how they've been used before. And you take an idea and it goes out and gets the words and it
Right.
puts the words in. I love it. We use it in our marketing because I'm better at editing than starting with a blank canvas or blank sheet of paper. And then the errors are glaring and you make the edits and it's a big time saver for sure. But it isn't smart enough to say, I want to sell this widget to this audience. Go for it. And
Right. Yeah, and it can give you some really good frameworks too. Like, hey, give me an outline, things like that. That's very helpful to me. Like, okay, I'm writing this project. Give me an outline. What's the timeline? What steps should I take? Very good at figuring stuff out like that.
It's very, it is a leverage tool, and we're leveraging it to a greater degree in our trading algos. But we're about to take the next step, and it's not our business to typically bring tools to help pros make money in terms of trading ideas. We bring tools to help pros make money with their ideas, to eliminate friction, to find the best venue, to leverage different functions. In other words, I'll watch somebody maybe click trading and say, okay, I can do that in half as many clicks, or we can boil it down to that's a set of algos, and then bundle them. And then the user who has, people who are disciplined and creatures of habit will have a lot of their successful workflow being repetitive. And we try to eliminate that, especially for large companies that need to handle a lot of data with a lot of clients.
Right. Now, you had mentioned earlier that you're using some software I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but I want to kind of clarify, something to do with ETFs getting approved and
yes,
going through the process of ETFs. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that was really curious for me.
Where I think it has relevance to you and your audience is that one of the most successful ETFs launched was GLD. Okay, prior to GLD, the common person, the individual investor, had a very difficult time exposing their investment dollars to gold. And you had gold futures. You could buy, if you were numismatic, you could go into coin store. The GLD contract, and I had a front row seat to that launch because Bear Wagner, which was a trading division or a trading affiliate to Bear Stearns, which is now part of JP Morgan, was the primary, the DPM, if you will, designated primary market maker, PMM or DPM. And they were a client of mine at Liquid Point. So we were heavily involved in making changes for the traders to trade this new ETF. And it was simply to bring participating in gold to the masses who felt comfortable with the equity market. They had brokerage accounts, so on and so forth. And I remember the back and forth between the pros and cons for this product, people that thought it wasn't going to make it pretty vividly. And I'm hearing the same things about a true BTC, Bitcoin ETF, which there's a handful of different styles that are in the queue with the SEC for approval. And that deadline is January 10th. So, you're within a month now of getting an answer from the SEC. And previously, they've turned these down. Some for decent reason, meaning the pricing methodology, settlement methodology was a little less stable than they wanted. Now you have BlackRock, who has a very high, like 99% approval rating for any of the ETFs that they have applied for. They're in the queue. And so they pretty much know something that they're not going to go through this unless they had a high probability to being approved. So that is important for your audience because that'll trade like the GLD ETF. I'm assuming and expecting that there'll be very little slippage between the actual price of Bitcoin and where the ETF trades. There'll obviously be an over-under where the ARBs are trying to keep it in line. There'll be some room for arbitrage edge, if you will. And that'll be the first big step to be bringing real crypto digital asset trading to the listed markets, which is going to spawn a lot more trade in both of those venues. And that's happening right around the corner. Our prospects are gearing up for that. Some of their clients, the more well-heeled traders, will want to trade both in the spot and the ETF to do a cash and carry, if you will, arbitrage. And then there'll be options on that ETF, and you're off to the races. Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Casey, you're muted.
Okay, yeah. So I think you're right. It's great to get an ETF out there for options trading. I'm actually using some crypto ETF right now. It's a BITO, and I've been trading options on it with the rise of Bitcoin, and it's just been fantastic. It's just a great way to trade Bitcoin, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's approximation, and I think it points to how the more refined ETFs will, we prior to 1983, 82 maybe, we didn't have a tradable equity index. Okay, the Dow was launched, 150 years ago or whatever, but prior to the SPOOs, the S&P 500s, being listed on the CME, we didn't have a tradable index. And then quickly, CBOE had the OEX, which was the 100. Board of Trade listed the MISL, Major Market Index, the missiles, which is defunct now. But then you spawned, the Russell and SPYs came on board to bring the SPOOs to the common person, or little guys like us that want to trade. The SPYs are super tight market, super active. So our business, which is delivering the technology, these firms that trade these things and the exchanges that trade them, we were super busy as Liquid Point in the early part of this century, as Matrix currently my second company and competitor to the first. But that's all enlisted, and we see the same thing happening in the digital space. And that flow begets flow. Volumes will continue to increase and explode.
Right. Now, you also are in the process or have already got started a token or coin. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yes, we launched a token that's called the MERC, MERC. It trades on various venues. For your non-US audience, it trades overseas on CEX, Bitrue, and very soon will be listed on MAX, which is MEIX, which is in the top 20 exchanges, or Uniswap, which is a DeFi. Token trades under a penny. It has two pillars of value, if you will, Casey. our institutional clients that hold and stake the Mercs get a discount off their monthly invoice, and that sets a minimum price level to that, depending upon how busy they are and how much they trade. And then for individuals, in the first quarter, we're launching a rewards program that I've curated third-party trading software for options, equities, and crypto that uses Professor Harry Markowitz's modern portfolio theory to bring value calculations on the risk profile of your portfolio if you add crypto to it. And then some other trading tools, a podcast that I'll be doing, and probably all the podcasts that I do with third parties such as yourself will be available to people in our rewards program. And if they're on our system, they get a cash back rebate. So that's MERC, trades for about 3/4 of a penny. And, you can put it in your sock drawer, check it out, stake it. There's a 10% annual staking reward. Come back in a couple of years and see where it's trading at. But that's one of our big projects right now, is to get the word out about the Mercs and where it trades.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I actually just while you were talking, I grabbed some. I went on my MetaMask.
Awesome.
Found it was available.
That's really great. Yeah, if you go to CoinGecko, you can see that it trades on multiple exchanges. They're not so well connected where the prices are identical, but they're relatively close. There's a few market makers, one or two that are doing it now, a few more that are signing up to do it. And then we're being discussed in the new exchange that's launching in January called Prometheum. And it's a securitized token. So they're going to trade digital assets of all types, totally SEC regulated. And they're talking to us about possibly listing on their exchange, which we would get a lot of coverage. The big boys then would find out about us. So, I don't know when we're broadcasting or when we're actually dropping, but that's something that is a real cheap little, like I say, put in your underwear drawer and revisit it next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the way to do cryptos. Because you never know what's going to happen. And with crypto, I know I've made the mistake way too many times because I had Bitcoin early on and I just didn't really take it seriously. I thought it was just kind of a cool concept, and I had a bunch of it, and I just was like, oh, I connected it to my debit card, look, and then I spin it all.
Oh my God. What year was that?
It was before it was probably, I don't know. The Bitcoin was like a couple $100 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Casey, I have the same. I know there's a lot of us that have this story. Mine's a little worse. The head of research for my company back in 2009, great guy, Nick Colas, put out a morning email every morning. And I read it religiously just because I like Nick and see what he was thinking about and talking about, a lot of different things. And he got into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. So I read him religiously for about on Bitcoin for about 3 or 4 months. Beginning of 2010, I figured I got this, no big deal, and I totally put it aside. And then I'm having breakfast one morning in May of 2017, and these guys are going, "Did you see Bitcoin cross 2,000?" And I was like, "What? That was like 50 cents last time I looked at it."
Right.
And so I missed all of that move. So I hate myself for that, but at least I didn't buy a pizza with Bitcoin,
The famous $1 billion pizza. That is so
right?
hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable, right?
You
And
just never know.
can you imagine being that delivery guy and just putting a few Bitcoins away and forgetting about them and having them here at 45 grand or whatever?
Yeah, I know. That's just so crazy. But that was the thing though with me is I missed it, but then I got serious. Like I realized, okay, wait a second. This was a mistake. But then fortunately I didn't make the mistake the second time.
Oh, cool. Well, I mean, people are asking me like specifically taking their own polls where we think Bitcoin's going in 2024 and such. I mean, it's just math. I mean, basically, there aren't any. There's relative scarcity, and um, right now, I think there's um, enough Bitcoin for every millionaire in the country they could only own about a quarter of a Bitcoin if every millionaire bought a Bitcoin. So, it's just scarcity. And it's the headline grabber, it's the main network, it's what got everybody's attention. But RWA, the big buzzword, real world assets, that's what blockchain and digital asset transfer is really going to be all about. It's like when the internet launched and Netscape gave us a view into the internet, and people were like, wow, I can download a song on Napster, or I can watch a video. And it was so limited. And I'm not saying I was one of those people that understood the power and reach and
Right.
capabilities of having everybody connected. But the blockchain is really a very boring and simple accounting process that is space aged and modern, where you can take a building, a strip mall, or your future earning power. Okay, Casey Stubbs' future earning power has a value, or Tony Saliba's MarTech, marketing technology data, has a value. Put it in a smart contract, trustless exchange of that, and you monetize things you never thought you could monetize. You walk by a strip mall and go, well, it's really busy, or used to say that maybe, or you walk by something that is bigger than you would want to take on individually, but you want fractional ownership of it. And digital asset technology allows you to do that, allows you to transfer it quickly and easily with low friction. And that's really what the technology is bringing to the marketplace. And that, we've branched out from trading technology alone to being able to trade real world assets meaningfully on a cost effective basis for companies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's pretty cool about everything that's going on. And so, yeah, I also think that when you talk about real world stuff, but with Bitcoin, it's with the scarcity, I think that's going to open up a really big door for a lot of other coins because Bitcoin's going to be, it's going to be on top, but it's going to be too scarce for some people to get into. And so that overflow is going to cash down to other opportunities.
Right. Oh, exactly. And it opens people's minds to what else is trading. I mean, our token is an Ethereum based smart contract. So ERC20, and it's very ubiquitous and a lot of exchanges can trade it. and use it. But there are, public-private blockchains that have value in the private side, but then have a very secure bridge to the public side. And, I mean, there are fundamental investors still, and they drill down and try to understand the value of a company based on what it does, how its management runs the company, what the future opportunities are, rather than shiny object and it moves. So those value investors who want to trade, have and will dig in. I mean, this new technology is not going away. In fact, it's just going to replace the old technology over some time here. I mean, Bitcoin's going to be 14 years old in January. Reminds me of the early days of listed options. And in 1988, listed options were 15 years old.
Okay.
A big day on the collective of the four exchanges in volume was 1 million contracts. Today, 35 years later, we're doing 45 million a day on average, 40 to 45 million contracts a day. Okay, so a lot of the things I hear and see with digital assets and crypto is so akin to what I lived through in listed options in the late 70s and early 80s. It just takes time to ripple out to other vendors and other people.
The process is faster. That's kind of the thing that I've noticed is adoption is happening at such a quicker rate. So, I agree with you fully. It's a great comparison. I just would say that things happen so much faster nowadays than what they used to.
Well, it's been very exciting for us in seeing the changes. The biggest change over the last 5 years, I decided to launch the company in 2017, but really we're just two people for the first 3 years or so. Two people and an outsourced dev team that I had worked with closely for many years at Liquid Point, but we couldn't afford to bring them on full time as we were doing our market research. Then I came over last year to run it full time, and now we're about 34 people. But what we learned during this time was what the marketplace really wanted, and the move from the crypto native idea that everything can be done on, one phone, to everything in one place. That's not what investors and traders want. They want a separation of these functions, so to keep people honest, eliminate what happened with SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, where you the trust level with all that capital was way too high. You need checks and balances between, the execution, the liquidity provision that helps that execution, the clearing, the matching, the clearing, the custody, the banking should be separated, even though it can all be condensed and happen faster in digital assets. That's traditional financial people getting up to speed, coming in, taking over. That's really what the market is saying today.
Right. Yeah. Now, earlier you had said that with the price of Bitcoin, you were thinking that it was math. It's like math. And so with that kind of piqued my curiosity. Have you run some calculations to kind of come up with your own ideas as to where you think price is going to go? I haven't really done a lot of math on it, but I recently released a podcast episode where I made a prediction just kind of for fun. I was looking at charts, technical analysis. I was taking into consideration that we've got these ETFs coming out in January. I was also taking into consideration that, the scarcity aspect of it. So I was
Yep.
just kind of curious if you had anything you wanted to throw out there before we close up today.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, okay, in full transparency, I'm in agreement with you on that. And the your number is about double what I thought 2024 could bring. For your audience, that was 250.
Oh, so you saw it. Okay,
yeah.
good. I'm glad I
Um,
got your attention.
Oh no, I totally research my podcasters. Here's the thing, and I'll get it for you. And by the way, your audience can have contact with me at liquidmercury.com, www.liquidmercury.com, and I'll answer questions. I wrote some books. I was in Market Wizards. Anybody who wants, I have a unique chapter that I wrote in the 80s and early 90s about market making and the rich tapestry of liquidity provision that is unique in the US. If anybody has any questions on these things, I'm available. But and I'll post this other calculation I read last week that said $10 million per Bitcoin, ultimately. Okay.
No, you got me beat.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I buy into it 100%, but they're saying if Bitcoin replaced the US dollar as the medium of transaction,
that's a
which
big
is a big if.
That's a huge if. I mean, they're pushing it in some of those other countries, but that's a totally different scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, Casey, that you can. Okay, there's a number of different ways you can triangulate on this. This person, and I forget, but he was a market research person, said that, if Bitcoin replaced the dollar, it would have to be trading at $10 million per token, and you can go out 12 decimal places and figure it out what the smallest increment would be. But from here to there, what is the path? It's not straight up, but it's definitely not straight down. It's probably slightly up with people taking, speculators taking profit on its way to my number, 100 grand by the end of 2024, your number, 250, and on its way to $1 million, and then,
Right.
digestion. But here's the thing. Less than 10% of the investing public has even tried to purchase a cryptocurrency. Okay. Less than 5% actually hold it. And then when you talk about the size of these endowments, trust funds, sovereigns, but it's not going to be limited to Bitcoin. There's going to be a halo effect. The alts have caught a bid. The crypto winter is thawing.
Right.
I think, the Merc, our token, is because we're directly related to delivering pickaxes and shovels to the miners, the people who need the infrastructure tools, will catch a bid. And, Bitcoin will be on a march. You never own enough when it's going up like that, but to nibble on something in the ecosphere of Bitcoin is going to probably end up doing well. I would say place a bet on a handful, do your research, include the Merc.
Yeah, I did already.
It's cheap at 3/4 of a cent or whatever. Yeah. So your thesis is sound, and I'll repost for my audience on liquidmercury.com.
Yeah, with my thing is the timing is always the hard part. You know, I mean, it's because you never know how long something's going to take. That's always the
And
difficult
then it'll blow
challenge.
right through your number, and you're like, "Well, I knew it. I should have bought more."
Yeah, I've had to, you know, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But okay, well, you know what, Tony, this was really interesting, and thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting with me. It's been great. Could you just remind our audience again one more time where they can locate you and find out what you're up to?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Anthony Saliba. Liquidmercury.com is our website. There's a section there to ask us, one of our pros, and if you ask for me, I'll answer it specifically. And then we're on Twitter, Power Pro Digital, I think is our handle. I'll post it in there. And then the Merc is our token, MERC on Uniswap. Yeah, and if we have our own communication portal, if you do buy Mercs, you'll get access to some of our goodies that we have for you there.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks again, Tony.
Thanks,
Really
Casey.
appreciate the time today.
Can't wait till next time, and we'll track each other on our